you very much for coming. I'm sure, can you hear me? Usually I don't need a microphone, but okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Helen Beny Lounge as we gather today to celebrate National Indigenous Peoples Day at the City of Medicine Hat. I'm City Manager Ann Mitchell, and I will be your MC this afternoon. I'd like to start off this afternoon event by giving the city's statement of acknowledgement, recognition, and respect. The City of Medicine Hat acknowledges that we live and work on treaty territory. The city pays respect to all Indigenous people and honors their past, present, and future. We recognize and respect their cultural heritages and relationship to the land. You'll notice that the Blackfoot Confederacy flag is flying outside of City Hall, and we're pleased to fly the flag as requested by the Cousins Skateboarding, a group that seeks to empower youth within the Indigenous communities through skateboarding. Their group's eloquent request stated, National Indigenous History Month is an opportunity to learn about the unique cultures, traditions, and experiences of First Nation, Inuit, and Métis. It's a time to honor the stories, achievements, and resilience of Indigenous people who have lived on this land since time immemorial. National Indigenous Peoples Day is a day to honor the rich history and traditions, diverse cultures, and important contributions of Indigenous people in this community. The day is recognized annually on June 21st within National Indigenous History Month. This aligns with the significance of the summer solstice for Indigenous people who have held cultural celebrations on the longest day of the year for centuries. The Indigenous history of Medicine Hat and surrounding areas spans more than 10,000 years. Medicine Hat is situated on Treaty 3 and along the boundary of Treaty 4 territory. It's also the homeland of the Métis Nation within Region 3. These are the traditional lands of the Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, Stoney Nakoda, Tsuut'ina, I even tried that a few times, as well as the Cree, Sioux, and the Saulteaux bands of the Ojibwe people. The name of our community itself stems from the Indigenous word Samus, which means medicine man's hat. The central focus of the Medicine Hat flag is a representation of the Indigenous heritage. We are pleased to have local Indigenous artist and storyteller Brenda Mercer here today. And Brenda will come up and perform a smudging ceremony. Oki, because we're on Blackfoot territory, Elder Charlie always says to start with Oki. So Oki, which means hello. Oh my goodness, it's a pretty exciting day. I told Ann and my family today I might be kind of emotional, but you know, tears of joy, nothing else but joy. You know, anytime you do something the first time, well, for me, it's emotional, and I can't believe that we're doing this here in City Hall. It means so very, very much. The first of many, I'm going to say. So we're going to smudge. I want to tell you a little bit about smudge, but because we're on Blackfoot territory, we normally smudge in a box, and it would be filled with white clay, which I get from the river. Might be filled about halfway full, and usually only the elders would smudge. So say if Elder Charlie was here, he would do the smudge, and in his smudge, he would also pray for everybody in here.
But we're not going to do it that way today. We're going to show you how we do it. And I have my helpers from the Austin Friendship Center here to help me. So we're just going to light a smudge, and the five of us are just going to smudge, just for consideration of time. So how we do it, but there's many ways to do it. This is how I would do it. So I would, when the smoke comes up, I kind of cleanse my hands, and I'm thinking really good thoughts. You know, I want to say the right things. I want to be able to be at my best. So I'll pull the smoke over my head to think good thoughts. I'll pull it to my eyes to see good things. I'll pull it to my mouth to say good things. And I'll pull it to my heart because I want to feel it here all the time. So we're just going to have a quick smudge. And usually when we smudge as well, just so you know, once the medicine is lit, we don't talk until we're done smudging. When Elder Charlie is here also, he has told me we never put the smudge out. We let it go out by itself. And what we do with the smudge after, when it's fully, completely burnt, is we take it outside and give it back to Mother Nature. So that's what we'll do after this ceremony. So we're just going to have a quick smudge, and I'll be right back. I'm just going to leave it there while I speak because I tend to get emotional sometimes, so I apologize in advance. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself for people who might not know me. My name is Brenda Mercer. I'm a 60 scoop survivor, but I like to call myself a 60 scoop thriver because I feel like the word survivor for me personally puts me in kind of a victim mode, and I don't feel like I'm a victim. So I like to use the word thriver because I'm trying to live my best life moving forward. So I was taken the day after I was born. So I was taken March 1st, 1964. Yes, that means I'm 60. And my mom didn't know that I was being taken away for good. She thought perhaps I would be taken away and put into foster care for a while, but I wasn't. And growing up in southwest Saskatchewan, I grew up probably from 0 to the age 5. I had a really good childhood. And it wasn't until I started going to school that things started happening. I would say, I guess, up to grade 7, things were pretty good. I went to Catholic school, and we were all friends because we're going to Catholic school. Everybody, went to everybody's house, and we all got along. And I went to grade 8, and when I hit grade 8, that's when it all started. People who didn't know me, people who didn't know the color of my skin or how I looked different, didn't like me, and all my friends I had in grade 7, I lost 90% of them. And that was really hard. But as a teenager, I never wanted to see anybody, I didn't want to let them see me cry. So I would go home and I would just take whatever they said, and there were ugly things. And it wasn't only from kids, it was from adults too. And that was really hard. I didn't tell my parents, and I didn't want to tell them because I didn't want my parents to get hurt. Because these were people that grew up in Shaunavon with them, and I didn't want to hurt them. So I kept it to myself. So fast forward, I get married at age 17, and coming from a Catholic family, you're supposed to get married, then get pregnant, and then have your children. But I kind of did it backwards. Had my first daughter, Dara, who's with me today. She came along in 1982. And I lived with my first husband for just about 11 years. We were living up in Hall Beach. We were 27, and he decided that, he wanted to have an extracurricular affair, I guess we'll call it, and he started going out with a girl who just turned 17. So I left, I came back down here, and so my first husband, Gail was his name, and my second husband, Chris, which is sitting right over here, they were best friends. And I actually knew them both when I had the chance to marry my first husband, and I didn't marry Chris at the time because, don't tell him, but he's kind of shy. And so I really felt like I wanted someone who I could talk with, and long story short, I made the wrong choice, but we're here now. I guess, for me, I always known I was Indigenous. I always knew that I was different from the people, my family. I had a kind of a hate on for my biological mom because I couldn't figure out how could a mother leave their child and not come looking for him. And I always thought, how can you do that? Well, I didn't know that she went to residential school, and going to residential school left her with so many heartache, trauma, things that she endured, sexual, physical, emotional abuse, that when she got out, she turned to alcohol, and she had 13 children, and I'm number 7 of 13. Currently, out of 13 of the children that there were in my family on my mom's side, there's 6 of us left. There's been murder, suicide, alcoholism, drugs, all that kind of thing in my family. So on my mom's side of the family, there's been a lot of trauma. And I think a lot of trauma too that we have is intergenerational through epigenetics. And so maybe some of the trauma I have isn't necessarily my own trauma. I think moving to Medicine Hat back again in 2011, it was shortly after that, I started working at the Meowson Friendship Center, and that changed my life. It kind of threw me into the fire. The Friendship Center deals with a lot of cultural things, and I'd never been exposed to cultural things. So making a ribbon skirt for me, I loved it, absolutely loved it. Made all these ribbon skirts. I must have had 5 or 6 at home, you know, I could make them like you wouldn't believe. But the problem was I couldn't wear them. And I still find it very, very hard to do that. So I am wearing mine today. And just so you know, as soon as this is over, I'm taking it off. Only because I still feel like people are going to make fun of me. I feel like people are going to say terrible things to me. And I know that's little Brenda thinks that. And I know that nothing like that would happen here, but in my heart, that's something I carry. So anyways, Meowson Friendship Center gave me a lot of different opportunities to learn about my culture. But I'm Dakota Sioux, and a lot of people at the Friendship Center may not be from here. Carol's from Ontario, Carly's from Guyanai, Saskatoon, and Brandy's from Manitoba. So we're all visitors on this land here, and I think that's what makes Medicine Hat so unique. You know, we've got so many cultures here, and I think that today means something very special to us because it's a time to be recognized, to be of the resilient people that we are, and it's also a time to maybe share some of our culture with you. So if you ever see me around town and you want to ask questions about Indigenous culture, please just stop me, just ask me, because I'm the most open person you could speak to, and I have no problem sharing. I don't really have much else to say other than this is such an opportunity today, and I hope that this goes on in the future. You know, I always tell people that the 60s scoop took a long time. You know, it's still going on, I kind of think, without us saying the 60s scoop anymore. And I'm trying to be a positive role model and advocate for my kids and my grandchildren. And I can only bend the curve a little bit. And when I step down, hopefully they'll take up and they'll bend it some more. And then my great-granddaughter will bend it more. And I just want to say thank you to all of you for coming out. And my last words, I guess I want to tell you, is that we're still here. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. We're very fortunate to have you in our community, and thank you for sharing your very personal journey. I'd like to now call up Her Worship, Mayor Linnsie Clark, to share more on the City of Medicine Hat's events and initiatives as we continue to strengthen our commitment to reconciliation.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be here today as we walk the path towards reconciliation together as a community. I do want to pass judgment on Brenda and how she looks in her skirt. You look like fire. You look very beautiful. And there's nothing you could wear that would make you not look beautiful, because love shines through you, and that is always beautiful. So thank you. First, I want to express my gratitude. I have been very blessed by the grace and friendship of many of our Indigenous community members, especially over the past few years. Through conversations, storytelling, and often extremely patient explanations to me, I have been empowered to learn and grow towards mutual understanding and reconciliation, which is something that we all seek. So thank you for all of you who have blessed me on my journey. Now I would like to share some of the truth and reconciliation initiatives that the City of Medicine Hat is sharing in. First, the City of Medicine Hat hired an additional community inclusion coordinator in January with a focus on Indigenous relations and supports. The approval of this position stemmed from the Truth and Reconciliation Recommendations Committee to establish a city staff position to provide leadership and advice on Indigenous matters, cultures, and protocols, support training and education efforts, promote reconciliation and relationship building, and coordinate events and activities to support awareness initiatives. Currently, the Community Inclusion Coordinator role is working on the revisiting and recreation of our functional land acknowledgement and protocol. This provides us an opportunity to connect with our local Indigenous community and come to a consensus on how we want our community to be represented from an Indigenous lens. We do this in the spirit of truth and reconciliation, building relationships, and demonstrating respect for our Indigenous residents. The Community Inclusion Coordinator has also been working to develop relationships within the community, including conversations with community partners and provincial and federal groups to better understand the gaps and needs and opportunities in our community in working towards reconciliation. And they are consulting with various internal city departments on projects that require specific knowledge of Indigenous protocols and engagement. We are pleased to have this internal guidance on such vital matters. The City of Medicine Hat is also a part of the Medicine Hat Ancestors Reburial Project Committee, alongside with the Mawassin Friendship Center and the University of Alberta. The project committee for the Medicine Hat Ancestors Reburial Project continues to work on and meet with community members around the return and reburial of 3 ancestors currently housed at the University of Alberta. The project team has hosted several community engagement opportunities over the last year and have met and continued to meet with individuals, institutions, committees, and groups to discuss this project. We are working towards a fall 2024 reburial and are excited to share more details once they are finalized. I encourage you all to visit our website to learn more about this project. We are fortunate to contribute something this impactful to our community, which has been a long, long time coming. Our city archives staff has also gone above and beyond their traditional role to proactively circulate, promote, and participate in knowledge sharing on subjects of Indigenous interest. They have shared findings within the archives holdings regarding Indigenous grave disturbances of the 1950s and 1960s and the importance of Saratoga Park, which led to its designation as a municipal heritage resource. And I am not sure, are you guys offering tours this year again? No? Well, there's a plaque there, and I would encourage you, I know there's lots of people in our community who can tell you about the history of Saratoga Park, and if you go there at just the right time, you can't pick or eat them, but it is so many chokecherry trees there, and it's a beautiful and peaceful space that you can walk around the path, and I would encourage everyone to visit. The Métis Oral History Transcription Project was undertaken in 2023. 9 Métis oral histories were transcribed with the sound files and transcriptions placed on their website at collections.esplanade.ca. We have also been fortunate to have recent and current exhibits at the Esplanade Arts and Heritage Center. The recent Here I Am, Can You See Me exhibit by George Littlechild brought nearly 5,000 visitors between January and April of this year. The exhibit gives remembrance, recognition, honor, and validation to the innocent children who attended residential schools, many who did not make it home again. And currently on display at the Esplanade until August 31st is In Our Nature, which features the work of 7 Canadian artists. Among them is Heather Shillinglaw, a member of Cold Lake First Nations. Shillinglaw's exhibit, Whispers in the Forest, signifies ancestral memory within her homeland. It represents the forest as it is, and also the forest as it was. We encourage you to experience this beautiful exhibit. And then there's the block party. In the spirit of celebrating National Indigenous Peoples Day, we encourage all of you to attend tomorrow's block party at Town Square from 12 to 4 p.m. The theme is celebrating Indigeneity, and we're excited to have a fantastic slate of fun, educational opportunities, including a ribbon skirt fashion show, story sharing with White Bear Creations, a drum circle, Ask an Elder with Elder Charlie Fox, a host of great vendors, and more. The City of Medicine Hat remains committed to celebrating our Indigenous history, and we remain steadfast in our commitment to reconciliation. I wish you all a wonderful day and weekend filled with learning and sharing and openness. And I really would encourage anyone who has a tricky or tough question, something that maybe you're even afraid or ashamed to ask, to head down to Town Square tomorrow and give Elder Charlie Fox an opportunity to answer you. I know he seems like a really intimidating guy, but I can assure you he's actually very nice and patient and kind. Or take Brenda up on her offer to stop her in the street and ask your tough questions. If we can't talk openly and respectfully about our bias, sometimes biases we don't even know about, predispositions, it's going to be a lot harder for us to gain understanding and challenge the way that we have traditionally thought of things. So with that, I thank you and wish you all a good afternoon.
Sorry, I thought I was done, but I'm not quite. I was wanting to gift this, and while I'm talking about it, if the mayor could please open it, I'll tell you about it. I wanted to give the City of Medicine Hat a drum, and I felt like it was really, really important. So I just want to tell you a bit about this drum. I made it myself. I make all my drums and I have drum workshops. This drum is made from deer rawhide, and it's made with all my love and good intention as anything I make. The reason why it was in a blanket is because in my culture, I was always taught that drums are like our grandparents and to treat them with respect. So when we're not using our drum, we have our drums wrapped up in a blanket, put away snugly. As you care for a grandparent, that's what we do with our drums. And I wanted to take this opportunity to gift the City of Medicine Hat the drum, because this is the first of many, and you have no idea how much I appreciate and I'm sure all my friends standing behind me appreciate the City of Medicine Hat and the allies that we will make in the future, because, you know, we want to work with you, come work with us. We want to know you, come meet us, you know, so we're very, very open, and that's all. I don't have anything else to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Finally, I'd like to call on Councillor Ramona Robbins, to say a few words to the group today.
Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to be here today, and I didn't prepare anything to say because I wanted to speak from my heart, and I'm normally not one who does that. I'm driven by logic and facts and other things, but So why am I here? So I sat on the Truth and Reconciliation Committee in kind of a roundabout way. So the committee was formed actually by the work of the former council. And in the terms of reference, there wasn't any requirement or reference to council members sitting on the Truth and Reconciliation Recommendations Committee. But the first time they had a meeting, they said to staff, we would like a councillor to come and sit with us. And so I know I'm going to tell you something about myself in a moment, but I know from my own life history that you don't then say, we'll tell you who that's going to be. The next thing you do in an Indigenous conversation is say, who would you like to sit with you? And so they responded, me. So I said, I would love to do that. Thank you for the invitation. And I went to the committee. And it was a life-changing experience. I cried, I laughed, we ate, we did a lot of things, but mostly we talked about what was important to us. And so my personal experience in telling your story, I think, helps people understand who you are. I grew up in Grand Prairie, and most of the people in my junior high school classroom were Indigenous. Cree was a language option at our school, but I will say that I'm just slightly outside of Brenda's generation, just slightly, Brenda. We're very close in age, we are. And so I never heard of the 60s scoop. We didn't talk about residential schools. And even though there was a big movement to bring Indigenous language back into school and Indigenous culture in school, that was very welcomed and encouraged by our school district. We didn't hear about the raw truth of it all. So I'm very grateful this week, because my children came home, they're 11, and they go to a school district 76 school, and they said they had somebody come and tell them about the 60 scoop. So what I say to myself is that's a generational change. We went from me, even though I was in a classroom full of Indigenous kids, never talking about it, to having my kids come home and tell me about it as if I didn't know, because they were morally outraged, as 11-year-olds can be. Why? They want to know why. So that is the question, isn't it? And the most important thing is it never happens again. And we learn why, so we don't do those such things again. Anyway, my experience in Grand Prairie was wonderful, and it's very different than the experience my children are having in Medicine Hat, because I got to go to many Indigenous friends' homes. And they would have their grandmas and their aunties, and there was so much teasing. What is it with the constant teasing about what you're eating and what you're wearing and what boys you like, and it was just nothing but laughter in those kitchens. And so when we talk about Indigenous history and we talk about Indigenous culture, we often speak about it in the past tense. And in my childhood, that culture was rich and obvious, and my favorite places to go. Man, if I could get a sleepover at one of those houses and convince someone's grandma to make me bannock, I was the happiest kid imaginable. Might have been about the food, might have been about the laughter, probably a combination of both. But when I heard Brenda speak, I thought, it triggered a memory of mine that happened in junior high school all the time. And then in high school, we sort of merged junior high schools together, and the Indigenous kids became the minority in that high school. And there was a point where those relationships sort of stopped, where I think the Indigenous kids gathered around each other to protect them from the hurt that they were experiencing. That was what I remember being in gym in badminton class, and I went up to a couple of my friends from junior high school, and I said, let's play badminton. And there was someone from another school said, why would you play together? And I said, we've been playing this together for years. And they said, yeah, we've been playing together for years. But there was judgment of the fact that we actually liked and knew each other. But when Brenda said that happened in grade 8 for me, that happened in grade 9. So it's very real. So if you have children moving into those teenage years, all the more important to keep having these conversations and encouraging these relationships, because they're so precious. And so I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to speak, tell some of my story, which I think is important for me to share with you, and to thank all of you for being here today and choosing Medicine Hat as a place where you share your story. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robbins. I will share just a small bit of my story. I was in Northwestern Ontario, and we were working on Truth and Reconciliation for my time there for 6 years. And I remember Chief Clifford Bull said to me, Why are you trying to rush us down the aisle when we're only on our first date? And those words resonated with me very heavily because it's all about relationship and building that relationship. And that's always been in the forefront of my mind. Thank you both to Mayor Clark and Councillor Robbins, and especially Brenda, for sharing your stories and for being here with us. And when I came to Medicine Hat, Brenda was one of the first people I met, and I'm so grateful. Thank you, Brenda. We as a community are fortunate to have such a rich, vibrant history, and we cannot overstate the importance of reconciliation and a commitment to fostering and sustaining positive relationships with the Indigenous people. We celebrate the strengths and resilience of First Nation, Métis, and Inuit cultures and acknowledge the vibrant tapestry of Indigenous history that surrounds this community. This concludes the formal portion of our event, but we welcome you to stay and have some conversation, have some juice and some snacks. And as in the words of Mayor Clark, please enjoy your day and your weekend and join us with the other events. Thank you very much, everybody.